What's up, everybody? Long time no see. I've been real busy working, mostly working, so I haven't been able to make a video for a while, but every time I leave my channel I always come back wanting to make a video about me, wanting to talk about my story, because I'm always talking about other people's stories. I'm always interviewing other people, getting other people's opinions, and I really enjoy just talking from my heart, answering the questions that I've never answered, the questions that I'm always asking other people in the interviews, But today I'm going to let you get to know a little bit more about me, and I'm going to do it in a mukbang style. Mukbang, I don't know how to pronounce it, I've never done it, but I'm going to do it, learn how to pronounce it later. This watermelon is really good. This is kind of a soft spot, but really good. Alright, so life story. Feel free to click away right now. Might be a long video. I'll try to condense it. I'm gonna skip from my birth up to high school about, so. Right now I'm in Curitiba, Brazil, living at my wife's father's house. How'd I get here? Well, let's start from the uterus. I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. No, I am not Mormon. I feel like I have to say that because every time I say that to anybody, they're like, oh, you're Mormon, yeah? Not Mormon. Although I think Mormons are very nice people, lovely people, kind people. My sister's Mormon. Anyway, I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. My parents never married. My dad lived in southern Utah, my mom lived in northern Utah. I would go back and forth. Mostly lived with my mom, went to school up in northern Utah. My parents named me Rainy Paycheck. Actually, I named myself Rainy. Funny story, I was sitting on my dad's chest as a baby. And he was naming off names on a name book, and he came to Rainy, and I looked up at him. So I guess I named myself Rainy, so I can't blame them. They are hippies though, both of them. One is a sculptor and archaeologist and all sorts of things, painter, artist of all kinds. Very, very awesome guy. And my mom is a yoga teacher mostly and poet. Great family. I have two sisters. They have a different dad, but they're still my two sisters. Couldn't ask for a better family. They're awesome. I went to school in Salt Lake City, Utah. Met all my friends in kindergarten. Not all of them, but most of my best friends today are from kindergarten. Lived a good life. Was pretty smart growing up. Never did any homework. They always wanted to hold me back, but I got such high test scores that they couldn't. So that was satisfying. I was like bucking the system. They wanted to hold me back, literally, like every year they like wanted to, but no, couldn't do that. I got such high test scores that I was in the extended learning program, which allows you to skip intermediate school, middle school, but you have to do the homework. And I didn't do the homework, so I got kicked out of that program. And a good thing, because I met a lot of my good friends in intermediate school, and kind of shaped my life in intermediate school. I became a punker, had blue hair, wore crazy clothing. Me and my friends would have little games during like recess or lunch in intermediate school where we would, one group would be the anarchists and the other group would be the system, and we would like throw snowballs at each other and shit. We were hardcore punks. Started smoking weed around this time. I think I was 12 years old when I first smoked. Didn't get high, but quickly got high after that. And weed became like my best friend for a good 10 years or something. Smoked every single day, seriously, multiple times a day. I loved it. I felt like my brain was like working all of a sudden. Like there was like cogs in my brain that just all of a sudden started functioning, which is now how I feel on the fruit-based diet. I don't smoke weed anymore, but I don't know if I should be talking with my mouth full. Probably not, but I mean, an eating show. I imagine, I've never watched a mukbang, but I'm gonna talk with my mouth full sometimes. We'll see how that goes for the viewers. You let me know if that's too disgusting or not. So, quickly moved on to other drugs, hallucinogens mostly, mushrooms, acid, mescaline, peyote, DMT, things like that. My first mushroom experience was very interesting, very good, very bad. Highs and lows. I had like death experiences where I thought I was gonna die, where I thought the universe was ending, and all sorts of crazy things. Juxtaposed to that was feelings of absolute ecstasy. I'd say mushrooms or any hallucinogen really is like life intensified. So if you have bad thoughts, you're in the deepest, darkest depression in your entire life. You're like dying because you're having a bad thought. You literally think you're dying. This is my experience. Like if I would have a negative thought, I would think I was dying and like the universe was ending. And I'm not explaining it well, but basically it's life intensified. So if you have a positive thought, you're on cloud nine, ecstasy. Oh my God, nothing's felt more amazing and spiritual and beautiful and clear and everything in your entire life. So, and that sort of helped me realize that my mind is really like so powerful, and like we're creating this life with every thought we think. You know, we are God in a way. We're our own gods. We can stop living if we want by just stopping breathing. You know, we create our life every moment with every breath we take. So this was sort of a new spiritual, religious realization that I had, but I also had some realizations that caused some problems within my ability to socialize, so that are still affecting me even today, but only because I let them. Let me explain. So mushrooms, you're basically, unless you're out and about doing stuff, you're sitting there for 6 hours or 8 hours, however long it lasts, and you're tripping. You're in the deepest parts of your mind. You're basically meditating. You're sitting there thinking, experiencing. You're in a creative mindset. Like, it's been proven that hallucinogens sort of unlock or really only work in the right side of your brain, which is the creative, the artistic, the creative side of your brain, you know, a side that we rarely use because it's always bogged down by conceptual thought process and mind chatter. And basically I realized that this meditative mindset, this right side of my brain, this almost open mind that I was experiencing on hallucinogens was like how I wanted to be at all times. I didn't want to have a mind bogged down by conceptual thought process, basically. Conceptual thought process being mental chatter and, you know, just that voice we constantly have going in our mind that's worrying about this, the past, and the future. Just, you know, it's not presence. I experienced presence, I feel like, for the first time in my life on mushrooms. I got a taste of it through marijuana, but like, I felt it as something profound, this profound change in me that I really wanted to feel all the time. I wanted to have this meditative mindset all the time. And so in order to do that, I had to be in a meditative mindset my entire life. I had to not think, not talk, not use conceptual thought process. And so I quickly became sort of obsessed with this. And if you ask any of my friends that did the trip with me, or friends that saw me afterwards, or anybody that really knows me, I became extremely awkward socially. Like, way more so than I am now. I think I am still now quite awkward, but it was much worse. I didn't withdraw myself. I kept living the way I used to live. I kept smoking weed and I kept hanging out with my friends and playing video games, but I had this nagging feeling that, like, what are you doing, Rainey? This is not what you want to be doing. You want to be meditating, you want to be out in the middle of the wilderness, you want to be living like a monkey. So I just became like this empty shell of a person that wasn't living the way that they want to be living, but always wanted to be living the way that they wanted to be living. For example, sitting there playing video games with my friends, and like, they would talk to me, and just because they were talking to me and I had to respond with like conceptual thought process talking, I had to respond in words, I would get frustrated because I didn't want to be doing that, but I hadn't been able to express why, because I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't really articulated what I was feeling inside. So all my friends just thought I went fucking crazy, and I did. But basically I wanted to be able to say, hey, look guys, I had this experience on mushrooms where I really enjoyed this meditative like realization that we're all just talking monkeys and like most of the stuff we talk about doesn't matter, and like we should just be in nature living natural lives, and everything we do is crazy. And but I just like hadn't really thought about it to the point where I could just explain it in such simple terms, so I would just get frustrated, and I'd be like, I remember, I don't know if this is exactly how it was, but I would like speak in almost like grunts. I was like, yeah, like, I don't know if it was really that bad, but I would, for years, it seemed out of my life, I was just responding in like the most primitive possible way I could, because I just didn't want to go any further. The worst part of it, if I would have been doing this with a smile on my face, if I would have become a mute without this frustration around it, I probably would have been much more well understood by everyone around me. They'd been like, oh, he's becoming a monk, you know, he's taking a vow of silence, you know, because people understand a vow of silence, but they don't understand this abstract idea of talking is bad, you know, like, especially when I'm not even able to explain that. So it really put a damper on my like social skills. I just stopped developing social skills for years. Just recently started trying to develop them again. Making these YouTube videos will probably help me quite a bit. Yeah, so I wanted to just be this hermit out in the wilderness, living in a cave, living off of nature, which is ultimately what brought me to raw foods, because I was like, what do monkeys eat? I guess I should be eating what monkeys eat. There's just this really simple realization of like, oh, duh, fruit. Even though I didn't start with a fruit-based diet, I started with like a high-fat raw diet, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I was in high school, I had gone crazy, and I was still just sitting around smoking weed with my friends, not doing much, just getting high, and then waiting till the high wore off to get more high, and I feel like that lasted for years. And then I went to my dad's house, and he hadn't seen me for months and months, so he didn't know that I was crazy. And it was the first time I really like had to explain it to him, or to somebody. I like really had to like try to explain it, and it felt so good to like try to articulate my mind. And it was so hard too, because I had been for so long so shut off, and that really deep, like diving deep into what I've been feeling for so long was like even harder. But anyways, I had this idea in my mind that I should be a raw foodist. It just made sense to me. And I don't know if it was synchronistic or I was just paying attention, that all these things started popping up. Like, I was in high school and we had to do like a newspaper article every day. So I opened up the newspaper and boom, there was a fucking article about a raw food restaurant in Salt Lake City. Or like I was on the weekends and going to a yard sale, and I went to this yard sale that was at a house that I used to live at, and the only book inside of this box was Pure Food and Wine's book. I forget what it's called. Back before Sarma was a fugitive. I forget the name of the book, but it was a raw food recipe book. All of these things were like synchronistically happening, it seemed. And eventually, I just finally did it. I think it was after I graduated from high school. So I was like, I'm doing it, and I went to the raw food restaurant and I got a job there, and this was about 9 years ago now. I ate a high-fat diet for almost 4 years. I was like following the David Wolf thing. I thought David Wolf was like the smartest person on the planet, and I wasted so much money on like his powdered superfoods and ate so many kale chips, and yeah, it was wild. I went to like the raw spirit festival twice in Sedona and in Santa Barbara. I met Dr. Kassar, and I thought he was like the coolest person ever. And I was like, thought breatharianism was possible, and tried water fasting for 3 days, and I was like, oh, breatharian's so possible. I lasted 3 days without food. And I was a naive little shit, but I was learning. When I went raw, I realized that marijuana didn't affect me the same anymore. I didn't feel high when I smoked marijuana. I felt low, like super low, like terrible. but I was already high from raw food, so I couldn't really get higher. I couldn't get high, I was already high, so anything that tried to get me higher was just like an imbalance. It was like too much. I just felt low, so I stopped smoking weed, and I didn't smoke weed for years. I went to Sedona, Arizona, and I worked there for 6 months, like a sort of like a woofing thing, work trade. And I came back to Salt Lake City, and I started smoking weed because I started hanging out with my friends again. I just like went back to what was familiar to me. And then I went to Uruguay with my godfather because he owns land down there, and my friend, my vegan friend. And I started eating cooked food because like I was with my vegan friend, and he was sick of eating the ensalada triple, which is just cebola, tomate, lechuga, lettuce, tomato, and onion. And that was like the only option I could have if we were out to eat. I didn't really know about the fruit-based diet before that. So I started eating cooked food again, and I felt awful, and I like couldn't sleep. It was the first time I really realized like how fucked up cooked food was for me. Because before, when I was eating cooked food, it was just like, yeah, I don't know anything better. So now, after I knew better, raw foods, going back to cooked food was like hell. It was like I couldn't sleep. I was just itching all night long. I would itch on my lymph nodes, especially. And if like I would itch crazy over here, and then it would start itching over here, and then it would start itching right here, and then over here. I don't know what's up with these points, but they're like something weird. Eventually, like, wasn't an itch. It was like this, like, it was almost like connected through nerves. Like I could touch here, and I would feel it over here, and then like I can't explain it, man. It was weird. But cooked food was fucking with me. Yeah, I stopped eating cooked food again eventually after like a good 6 months, I think. It wasn't like I was eating cooked food every day, or I definitely wasn't eating it every meal. It was probably like a close to raw till 4 type of deal that I was doing for a while. And I remember like getting so fucked up that I would just go back to raw foods, and then I wouldn't start eating cooked foods again until me and my vegan friend went somewhere out in Uruguay or traveling or something. Anyways, so I ate some cooked food for a while, came back to Salt Lake City, stopped eating cooked food. Then I went to Idaho to my friend Art Egertson, if you've ever heard of the Pro Bar. It's like a meal replacement bar, vegan. He created it. Rest in peace, Art Egertson. He died a few years ago from a carbon monoxide freak accident. Try not to keep this video too morbid. Went up to Idaho, started living on basically nothing but wild black-cap raspberries and thimbleberries and blackberries and strawberries from the garden, and I felt so fucking amazing. Like to this day, I've never felt that amazing. Just living on nothing but wild berries. Holy shit. That was the life. I remember Art came, because I was like living up there doing work trade, building and gardening, and he came up because he lived in Salt Lake City, and he would just come back and forth. He came up and like brought me a little granola bar. It wasn't a Pro Bar, it was like a granola bar, and I ate it and it went through me in 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, after I ate this thing, it was fucking in a bush, because I went and took a poop over there, and it came out just the way it went in. Not really, but like I guess I didn't chew it, but still, it shouldn't go through you in 15 minutes. That was pretty fucking crazy. My body was like, nope, that's not a fucking wild berry. Get that out of there. I miss Art. I miss Art a lot. He was the most amazing cook, vegan cook on the planet. He was like, yeah, he actually looked a lot like Gordon Ramsay too. And his attitude wasn't too far off from Gordon Ramsay's at times. But I love the guy. Awesome guy. After Idaho, I went back down to Uruguay, alone this time. This is when I experienced the fruit-based diet. Because I went down there and I started eating cooked food again, but I was like experimenting this time. I was like, okay, what makes me feel really, really bad? What makes me feel okay? And what's like the best thing as far as cooked food that doesn't make me feel so crazy bad? And I realized that cooked oil was the worst by far. Then maybe cooked grains like flour, bread and stuff. I think bread is probably after cooked oil. And then what made me feel the least bad was like whole foods, steamed vegetables, But I couldn't get enough energy from just steamed vegetables, so it would have to be like potatoes or something, you know? Like potatoes were definitely the least bad thing I could be eating for energy in a cooked food form. But I still didn't feel amazing. I'd still like itch and get mucusy and get acne and whatnot. So at this point I was realizing, okay, carbohydrates. And then I stumbled upon a Harley video where he was like, at the time, he was raw at the time, but he was talking a lot about like carb the fuck up, like whatever you eat, potatoes or fruit, just fucking carb the fuck up. Anything else, the high fat, the whatever, nothing else really works for us. And I was like, yes, that makes sense, carb the fuck up. And I was carving the fuck up. I was eating so much, it was insane. Every meal I ate, the next 2 minutes I was pooping, you know, like I was like pushing things out with everything I ate. Just like non-stop eating. And I've heard a lot of people do this. Some people call it the remineralization phase. But what I really think it is, it's like a transition from an eating disorder we've had our entire lives. And what it is the eating disorder we've always had is eating until we feel like, oh my god, okay, I'm full. And that's, to me, an eating disorder, because on raw food you can't really do that. You never, it's so satiating, this stuff, you can't really eat too much of it. It just, you feel like, you don't feel like, oh my god, I'm too full, like I need to lay down for a while. You feel like, okay, like this food's not even tasting good anymore, I don't really want it, I have plenty of energy, why am I eating anymore? That's what happens on raw foods. But cooked food, you're like, okay, I'm gonna shovel this in because for some reason it's not sending signals to my brain that, okay, that's enough, you have enough energy, you're getting enough nutrition from this, because I feel like I'm not. I feel like cooked food just doesn't give me what I'm looking for. It doesn't give me the biochemistry, the nutrition that my body needs in order to feel calm, to the point where it's just like, okay, that's cool, that's enough, I'm good. Cooked food is just like, okay, keep eating, because you're not getting the antioxidants. You're just stuffing yourself with this glue, this starchy shit that's really not dense in nutrients. It's not dense in things the body needs. It's just dense in something that we can kind of convert to energy. You know what I'm saying? Do you feel the same way? Because I've heard Ted Carr talk about this, probably in more eloquent ways than I'm talking about it now, but I totally agree. 100%. Cooked food does not give your body the stuff it needs in order to feel its best. And on the contrary, it stops up the aperture. It's just clogs us up with glue, you know? It clogs us up with gunk. Raw food's where it's at. I mean, there's no other animal on the planet that eats cooked food. Fire damages things. If you enjoy your cooked food, I don't want to make you feel bad. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm just trying to say my experience says that cooked food doesn't do me any favors. And if you've never experienced a long-term raw vegan diet, I highly recommend trying it. Because I didn't know how good my body could feel until I tried a long-term raw food diet. I had no idea. And you could say ignorance was bliss, but I'd say ignorance is not knowing any better. That's all it is. You can't be blissful if you don't know bliss, but you can be ignorant of bliss, which also means that you don't have to know that you don't know bliss. So that's a good thing, sort of, but it also just seems like a poor excuse to never push yourself out of your comfort zone. Am I making any sense? Anyways, I was eating raw food, eating like crazy, going through a remineralization phase, and I feel like I was searching for that feeling you get when you eat cooked food, where you just feel heavy and like, okay, I don't want to do anything but lay down for half an hour and an hour and just take a nap. I just want to digest food, that's all I want to do right now. I never feel that on raw food unless I'm eating a high-fat raw vegan diet. But when I got to fruit, I was waiting for that feeling. I was waiting for that feeling of full, and so since I never got it, I never felt like I was full. I felt like I had plenty of energy, but I just like was so used to this like feeling of full that I had associated it to almost like contentment, like, okay, now you can go do something else. And with raw foods, that something else, it can't be just sit there and do nothing for an hour, because you don't feel like you have to. You don't feel like you're heavy. You don't feel this like full feeling where you have to do nothing but digest. All you feel is energy. So you have to find fulfillment in something else other than the continuation of eating or the continuation of distracting yourself through TV after eating a big meal. You have to find fulfillment in using the energy that you have. You have to find it in exercise or something else like that. These are realizations that were absolutely paramount to my change. I'm just trying to say, I wish I knew this stuff when I started out my raw food diet. I was finally eating a fruit-based diet, finally feeling, oh my god, this is amazing. I had to realize that, okay, I gotta start exercising, and I did. I started exercising like crazy, exercising like a madman, doing pull-ups on trees all day long, running around, biking from town to town in Uruguay. Alright, so it was at this time where I made my first YouTube video. I'm sort of telling my story and talking about how a fruit-based diet, 80-10-10, is the best way. I think that's the name of the video. It's called 80-10-10 Raw Food Diet, the best raw food diet or something. And I still basically believe that. Maybe 95-5 is better, maybe eating a little bit more fat sometimes is better. I don't know. I never really feel better on fat. Anyways. Y'all eat as much fat as you want. I don't really care. I'm gonna eat less fat, more fruit. I think avocados are not even that tasty, to be perfectly honest. I feel like I only ate them because I was craving fat. I was craving something to like slow my detox or curb my emotional issues or something like that. So I was getting into YouTube, making some videos. I came back to the US, started living at my dad's house, living in the absolute middle of nowhere in southern Utah, 80 miles from the closest decent grocery store, 30 miles from the closest shitty grocery store, and I was a raw vegan. Anybody who says they cannot be a raw vegan simply doesn't want to be a raw vegan. I don't believe that they cannot be a raw vegan unless perhaps they are the Maasai African tribe and they're eating nothing but blood and cow meat or blubber up where Inuits live, you know. If you want to be a raw foodist, you can find raw food. You can buy boxes of bananas and lettuce and oranges and probably pineapple, you know, you can apples, you can find, there's fruit everywhere. I think in this day and age, if you want it bad enough, you can have it. If you don't, then you're gonna make excuses as to why you can't. So I was a raw foodist for about a year in southern Utah in the middle of nowhere, 80 miles from the closest grocery store on a very low budget. So sorry, but your excuses are invalid most likely. If you want to eat cooked food, that's whatever. Just don't make excuses. Do what you want. So I was making videos. I really wanted to go to the Woodstock Fruit Festival so I could interview everybody there and make it a documentary. I had made this video called Utopia or Oblivion that really inspired me to make a full-length feature film. I'll link you to Utopia or Oblivion here so you can watch it. It's just about a 5 or 10 minute video, I can't remember, talking about our situation, talking about why we are where we are, how we got here, why we're destroying everything, and perhaps the solution as to how we can stop it and stop destroying everything and start living symbiotically with nature. So ultimately that's what my documentary is going to be about. Very soon I'm going to have the financial security and sort of freedom to just not have to work for a few months and really just work on this documentary, getting it together. I think maybe by the end of the year, December or something, it might actually be finished. Who knows? So I did. I went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival. I met Harley and Freely and Ted Carr and Christina and Megan and everybody. And it was the best year ever. It was awesome. And I met the love of my life, Anna Krasuski. We met at the very last second of the Woodstock Fruit Festival. The Woodstock Fruit Festival was already over, everybody was going home, everybody was getting on the bus or getting in their cars. I was headed to Maria Sherrow's car so we could drive away. She was sitting by the bus. She was saying goodbye to Maria and said hey to me. We hugged. We didn't talk at all during the whole festival, but we hugged and said goodbye. And I found her on Facebook and we started talking a lot. And I went down to visit her in Brazil. We got married we got engaged first. We got engaged in like 3 days. 3 days after meeting her and talking to her. I mean, we had talked a lot on the internet, let me tell you. Every day. For hours sometimes, just talking. It'd be interesting to go back to those conversations and read them. There really wasn't any like romantic involvement in the conversations, but we were interested in each other. We never talked about it so much, other than the fact that I was going down to Brazil to see her. But it was more sort of like a vacation, like I was going to Brazil, see Brazil, and she was gonna come with, like she was gonna be my tour guide, pretty much. Like we never talked about anything romantic other than the fact that we were talking quite intimately about life and philosophies and, you know, getting to know each other. But when I got down here, there was very quickly an attraction. I think we kissed on the first day, and we got engaged on the third day. So, when you know, you know. And I knew, and she knew. And since we're both pretty immature, me especially, and selfish, me especially, it's been a rough road, and it hasn't been all peaches and cream and rainbows and unicorns. It's been pretty rough, but worth it, totally worth it. Marriage, as people say, it's not easy, but I mean, it's worth it. I'm so happy that I found her, and we had the issues we had, and we've worked through them, and we've gotten so much better. We have a better relationship every day, and helping me grow as a person, helping her grow as a person, and yeah, it's just growing together. It's basically what a marriage is. It's beautiful. I've been asked a few times recently if I'm in an open relationship. Technically we are, but we don't want to be with anybody else, so technically we're monogamous. We've talked about it, and we're in an open relationship, but it's not really. It's, you know, it's only open if we want it to be, but we don't want it to be. Not at the moment, at least. That could change at any moment, but that's just where we're at. So, to me, I see polyamory as, see, I'm from Utah. To me, I see polyamory as a beautiful thing. I see it as being able to love freely. Not freely and Harley freely. Just love freely. Love without restrictions. Love with freedom. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But I think a lot of people use it as a crutch. They use it as not only as just saying, oh yeah, I'm polyamorous, and using that as an excuse to just go fuck whoever they want, but using it as not in a way of loving freely, but not having to dive deep with anybody. I think it takes a lot of work to be in a polyamorous relationship in a way that actually works for you and the other people, because in order to be loving freely, not freely, in order to be loving with freedom, you have to learn to love without restrictions. You have to learn to love everybody, and that requires diving deep with everybody, not just diving shallow with everybody and fucking everybody. It requires loving everybody, and that takes a lot of inner work to be able to get to the space where you can do that, and I don't necessarily feel like I'm at that space right now. I definitely don't feel like a lot of people I know who are practicing polyamory are in that space. I think Connor and Brittany, for one, are definitely in that space. I can tell just being in their presence. I love them so much. They are awesome people. It's two of my favorite people on the planet right there. Connor and Brittany. I feel like they have really done the inner work that allows them to be polyamorous in a healthy way, in the way that the polyamory should be practiced. But others, I think, are using it as just an excuse to not have to dive deep with anybody, to not only just fuck people. That's probably the more carnal part of it, but really just not having to dive deep with anybody, not having to show off their souls to anybody or grow, you know. And I think some people are just hopping from person to person, never really getting in a serious relationship to the point where you have to really grow. And so I think polyamory is great. I think monogamy is great, and it all depends on where you're at as a person and what you want. And you have to ask yourself why you want what you want. Because you could say, I want to be in polyamory, but you could be doing it for all the wrong reasons. Or you could say, I want to be practicing monogamy, but you could be doing it for all the wrong reasons. You could be doing it out of attachment rather than out of love and care for yourself and others. See where I'm going with this? Anyways, I got married at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. It was beautiful, but it wasn't an official marriage. It was just like a symbolic marriage. We got married legally here down in Brazil. And it was that year that I became Woodstock's official videographer. Before being a videographer, my main job was construction and gardening and landscaping for my godfather, the same person who owns land in Uruguay. He owns a duplex in Salt Lake City, and I'd always go work there. Now I'm a videographer, and I like it. I'm getting a fair amount of money for all my editing that I do. And a fair amount of recognition. I can tell that my business is really taking off now. Always busy, always making money. It's really nice. I'm the official videographer for the Peru Fruit Festival, which was awesome, just happened last March. Can't wait to go back to it next year. I think it's gonna happen in October next year. You should check it out. It was a really good watermelon. I'm only like halfway done, but I'm also much more than halfway through telling my life story right now. So I got married, moved down to Brazil, living life and traveling when I find work that allows me to travel to make videos for people. And that's basically where I'm at now. Trying to be a fruitarian, seeing if that'll work out, seeing if my body agrees with it. I'm not sure if everybody's supposed to be a fruitarian or if everybody's body can handle it. Maybe some people need greens, maybe some people need nuts and seeds, God knows what. I don't want to tell everybody what everybody needs. So I guess that's me. So now I'm hopefully starting to make YouTube videos again. I hope I don't get too busy to the point where I can't make them. Woodstock Fruit Festival is coming up real soon. Happens August 21st through the 28th. And then the frickin' Fruit Look in New York City afterwards. Me, Chris Kendall, Ashley, Chris Donmoyer, Anna, and Ted Carr are getting an apartment together. Maybe Jake's gonna be there as well. It's gonna be super awesome. Apartment in New York City. Going to Hawaii in December for my mom's 70th birthday. I think in the next few days I'm going to make a video starting a fitness challenge once again. I've started so many fitness challenges and I always just end up a skinny little turd. I just always like stop making YouTube videos and then I come back to YouTube like, oh, I'm going to start another fitness challenge. I'm skinny as hell again. But really it's just because of work, and I like poorly manage my life to where if I'm working too much I can't do anything but work. And so I give up on my exercise routine. But I went climbing 2 days ago. Felt really good. Gonna go climbing again on Monday and start a routine of climbing. I'm gonna see if I can't get strong again by this Woodstock Fruit Festival. Gonna see how much muscle I can build in the next 30 days. And hopefully come out with lots of new fun videos. My iPad is broken for the second time. I cannot fly my drone, which bums me out, so I'm gonna have to buy a new iPad in New York City. But yeah, I have so many broken electronics. I just got back from Costa Rica where my computer completely broke. I had to take it apart 100%. Ants were in the keyboard, the hard drive crashed. It was wild. I also had to take a crazy camera lens apart, which is probably one of the most complex piece of electronics I have ever taken apart in my entire life. It took like 5 hours to take it apart and put it back together because fungus was growing in it. Anyways, I have a lot of electronics that are just not functioning right now. If you want to support me on Patreon, that would be much appreciated. I think I have one supporter. I make $1 a month. I really appreciate that one supporter. I don't know her in person, but thank you so much. That's awesome. If you do want to support me, it will go towards making this documentary. I've already put in about $10,000 buying equipment for the documentary and flying around the world, interviewing people. So I have spent a lot of money on this project, and I would really appreciate any sort of help anybody wants to give me. But if you don't have any money, don't worry. I will do it on my own. Just might not be as good. I think it's gonna be a really awesome documentary. It's got all the raw food pioneers and some vegan pioneers, and it's gonna be like Cowspiracy, but with raw food and like some Tony Wright in there, you know? Talking about symbiotic lifestyles and how we're supposed to be symbiotic beings, but we're not. We're being parasitic beings. Yeah, so if that sounds interesting, if it sounds like something you'd like to watch or help create, I'll put a link in my Patreon below and my PayPal if you'd rather do that and not pay monthly. Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was watchable. It's probably gonna take like 5 hours to edit, but oh well. Thank you so much for watching. Much love. Stay tuned for more videos. Peace.